Yeah, so here we have all the headings. We can fold them, and then we click on map, and it's become a mess. So what I can do is choose what to hide and what to show, and they have keyboard shortcuts, right? So once you hide them and then bring them back, they're all selected. So that's really, really important. So now I'm going to put them up here, and then I'm going to drag some way down here. I'm going to select them all again, and I'm going to do keyboard shortcuts for align left, and then V to distribute. Obviously there's too many people here now, but that's fine. And then we have, let's see, we have location. We move all of that. Oops. I'm just going to move all the countries down here. So obviously I could spend forever on this, and I actually have quite a good layout, so it's a bit annoying. Because one thing I cannot do is easily do a anyway, let me just do this quickly. So what I might want to do here is take hypertext and hypermedia together. So the stuff on the right is what I'd probably want to do manually chunking, taking a while. And then finally, document. Oh yeah, so now they're all gone, and that's useful because these are not documents as such. These are workshops, so I just put them on the side here. Is there anything? And now I bring back the documents, and I do this. So it's essentially a list.
Yep.
So one thing that's kind of cool, you can easily see that for this conference, for instance, there are more people from Germany, Italy, and the UK and USA, not so much from Canada. And that's something you may want to care about, you may not. I'm going to, put them a little bit geographically, put Asia. This is the stuff you would fiddle with, but there is a huge issue. Let's see. Okay, so here am I. So, what I had earlier was a list of people that are interesting to my work. For God's sake. Yeah, Charlie is interesting. Put him somewhere else. But see, the issue is, it's nice to have the lines only in selection, but what document did he write? You can't really tell, right? He worked on...
I thought he wrote ghost booking for a moment, but that's not true. So it's name links perhaps now? No, 7 hypertext. No.
Yeah, so this is the problem.
Yeah.
And I have got a solution for it. I'll show you the solution.
I would just color them on
selection. That's exactly what I'm doing. Exactly same thinking. This is not rocket science. Like this. So so Alan Kay, in the definition of Alan Kay, has the word USA. So that becomes dark. But IA, not only AI, has Alan Kay in its definition, so it's a bit lighter. So the point of it is, of course, that when you do these things, what you want to see is what's selected, not just the lines.
I would argue that you kind of don't want the lines at all, because they don't, if things light up, as you said, you already know the target. The line itself doesn't convey anything unless it's off screen.
So what you've done now is define our research. I completely agree we need to test this. It may very well be that the lines are useful because you can do things like this. You can see it's a lot more UK, US.
Yep, so the lines could convey density in some way, or the numbers, but also, on the other hand, numbers also convey numbers, so I wonder if there are other ways of doing that. I'm not totally against the lines, but a line, the middle part of a line is not very useful.
Yeah, no, exactly. But this is what I think we should now research. So we should make this an XR based on metadata so that this is all contained in every document.
Yeah, in XR we also have the kind of spider web problem that we don't want to go through the lines. So
exactly.
if we're in the middle of it, it will be a bit disturbing to have the lines going through. But there are many approaches we could take here, like making the lines more very light so they feel like wool or something, not that aggressive.
I do think it's important not to have too many lines. It's really annoying. You call it the spiderweb problem. I haven't heard that before, but I completely agree that that's an important and good way of looking at it. So all I'm suggesting in the paper is that we work on making the metadata make this possible so that each single document has the basics. And what I choose to do with AI, I'm not saying everyone has to do that. That should be entirely optional, especially if it's encoded keywords. And similarly, all the people, they have very basic information, only where they're from, because their connection to the documents is based on being listed as the author.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for this level of documents to build this kind of an interface in XR, right?
Perhaps, yep. I don't know yet. I don't immediately see the value of it, but I sense there is some value to tease out from this. For me, this view would only partially useful, or I don't know yet. But I like to kind of group things like you do here now. Somewhat loose collections that are not very rigid, but your own mess or half-structured mess where you know it. It's not for public consumption, but more as a temporary thinking space for you to find your stuff, your documents or whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly, I think, what our research statement should be, because it's only useful to a certain extent. And what should be in the metadata and what should be from the user is really what we need to figure out. So these keywords, I think the user should probably have their own set. And also, I have a list up here of people that are relevant to my work. In here, I should have some kind of a way to tick important or something like that, so that they are always in a separate pile, because I want to read their stuff.
Yep.
And I also want to see, what have they been doing, this year.
So some sort of star or follow could be a bit more discrete way of doing things. So follow does not indicate kind of excellence or likability or anything, but more that you follow their work for the moment.
Yes, and also here's a category down here of people who haven't, because only one of them is alive, they haven't written any articles, but they have been referred to a lot, as you can see.
Yeah.
So, and surprisingly, they are hypertext, hypermedia, and human. Not history for some reason, directly. Right? But so you then have to go back and it's like, hang on, this guy's worked on history, and he's from Italy, but what paper did he write? And then you see if any of them link up there. It's like, this is the kind of thing that we've talked about forever, to allow the people to do that.
And it could be fun to do this in XR. It's at least it's roomy. You don't have to kind of always beg for more space or compress things. You could actually put them out a bit. But the spider web problem will, of course, be more severe when you put things further apart and in 3D as well. But that is to be investigated, both if there are any good solutions out there and maybe come up with a few of them ourselves as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm hoping. And as you can see here, me just moving things about. A lot of this needs control click or equivalent. I know you're not a huge fan of this style, and that's totally fine. But
Yeah,
when,
but there are equivalents of them.
yeah,
If it's gestures, voice commands, or control clicks, it's not that important, but we need that functionality at least. So,
yeah, you need to be able to change your layout easily. You need to be able to save a layout ideally.
yeah, that would be if we want to take this further. Let's say you do a selection of some sort, either like tapping or dragging in some way to like you did right now in 2D. Um, it would be so interesting to just say align left.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Have a command like instead of hunting for it in the menu, you have 10 verbs, and I'm not saying that it's kind of always on like a bad car infotainment system that responds to too much, but having the equivalent of triggering a command and saying align left, sort list alphabetically, or let's say 5 or 10 things.
Yeah. No, absolutely, 100%, absolutely. So, one of the things I find useful is a little bit of auto layout, right?
Yep.
And also, of course, the selections.
There is also the notion of grouping things that is very important in all professional programs, or
Yeah,
even in
yeah,
semi like even in Keynote used by amateurs or non or a bit more loosely. Grouping is kind of a main interaction, and you have done a few groups here. Having a way of creating these groups, grouping and ungrouping is very important, and
yeah,
perhaps putting sometimes putting a title so you can come back and understand what your homemade group actually was about.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is something to we'll see if this is too much for this stage, but it's certainly, I find this a more credible use case for XR at the moment, instead of just do some light reference surfing, as you don't, yeah, following references and hyperlinks is a bit more, it's easily doable in 2 dimensions.
Well, the thing
The,
that, sorry, please go on.
no, yeah, but 3 dimensions, the roominess of 3 dimensions lends itself more to this kind of lots of objects, a bit too many objects, and seeing connections between them. So it would be fun to explore that more.
Yeah, I think, and this is what's kind of good and annoying. I think you and I are completely on the same page on this. So, I absolutely think that each one of these documents need to have their references available, so that we could click on this and it could go all the way to the left with the entire references. But because we're dealing with the names as they are here, and of course, names can change and all of that. There's an issue, we know that. But the point of it is, if you look at this guy here, you should be able to somehow see, has this guy published before? Or who has he cited? Yep. And all of that. We can do that in an XR space that's bigger than this.
Yeah, and let's say we have this as a kind of a rough sketchbook for a project. We have this kind of view. It's in front of us, close to us, and we're working with it. There is little preventing us from, let's say, when you select fake news or metadata or name it here,
yeah,
that we have kind of that we have a wall somewhere further away that also lights up with your whole library collection or something, a metadata collection or the ACM paper collection. So when you click Switzerland, even if you work here, somewhere in the background or to your left or to your right or somewhere in the room, so to say, everything related to Switzerland fades in on your kind of the murder wall that you always have present, or your library that is your main library, so you could quickly find stuff that is in your whole collection.
Yeah, absolutely. And the excitement for me is this thing up here. The fact that the base unit of knowledge you look at is a collection. And
Yep.
in this case, it's proceedings, but it could also be entirely arbitrary.
Yep.
Sorry, Edgar's here being a funny guy. It could, for
Yeah,
instance, be,
that's fine.
Mark Anderson's last 10 years overview or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. It's ginger, I guess. And it's chocolate with ginger, but I'm actually on the telephone device now, even though it's a computer thing. So I just wanted to point out what I'm doing now. It's probably obvious, but just for the record, so to speak, I've decided that I want to have a map of the world. So that means that this is not completely correct, but Spain is a bit far south, Switzerland, Norway is way up north. So I just do this thing, and of course, as we've talked about, this could actually be a map as well.
Yep. But it could also be kind of the word art you just made.
It could be whatever the heck the user wants, exactly.
So let's say you could import a word in as word art. That the small shape you have here, you have done yourself here. If we would, even without a globe, but just kind of the two-dimensional map layout of different countries and where they exist on a paper map. This view itself, if we could always insert it in a document, or perhaps get a version where where only the countries mentioned from a map get placed like this. That would be good.
Absolutely, and this
visualization.
Yeah, and this is what I find so extremely nice about this. I've been working on graphs for 15-20 years. I'm sure you've done the same. And the breakthrough for me is, I'll say it again for emphasis, it's using a proceedings as the base unit. Because it's not an entire library. Problem with the library to me is you've already decided to put stuff in, so you know a lot about it.
Yep.
So with this, yes, we should be able to do map units as that, map units as a map, but also active things. Like there's no reason, for instance, somebody couldn't have made an LLM based on discussions with Alan Kay, and that's slightly different icon, so it actually analyzes everything in this collection and can even be interrogated. It's the whole idea here is simply a framed environment for active nodes.
Yeah, we're certainly heading towards that with the kind of Alan Kay in a bottle thing.
Yes.
So that's where the puck is going, so to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much fun. It took me 2 days to make this, just to do, relaxing work. But now that it's here, I can really see the detriments to the display, which is fantastic. It's the whole point of research.
Yeah, and this kind of this is very much in it doesn't require anything super special in terms if we want an extra version of this. This is doable, and I think all of us has done a version of this in already. Yeah, so we have done variants on this. Both me, Brandel, Fabienne, and even Andrew. We did the early kind of word map things.
Yeah.
For Dini, so this is kind of a very. It's a good starting point, but it's also a good target, I think. Doing a very slight. But one question we need to ask ourselves is, will the text be clear enough or readable enough? And I'm not talking about a text you put at an ideal distance, but when we move things about, we could run into more problems with text clarity, especially on the lower end headsets, but perhaps in both headsets that really it's. So we have to think about typography in XR
So
bit more.
What you need to do right now is fill in the little document, send it back to the University of Washington, get your headset, so we can also do a version of this in native, because in native there is no problem with readability.
Yeah, but I'm sure you, as you have more experience with it, there is still kind of people consider it a 1080p, the feeling of a 1080p screen.
No.
Wherever.
No, it's much better. It really is much better. It is you can fill a room with this and it's totally readable. Well, anyway, you'll be here in a couple of weeks and you'll put it on your head, but you should have your own, because there are pros and cons of working in that headset, but it's hard to explain them.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Should we go on record, off record, and discuss some details? If you.
Bye, person who's listening. Thank you for watching.